The Washington Quarter Dollar coin has one of the most fascinating and historic journeys in the history of United States coinage, starting from its introduction in 1932 as a tribute to George Washington and evolving through many designs, minting changes, and valuable varieties that collectors continue to chase today. But in this video, we are focusing on one of the most interesting and highly sought-after coins, the 1817-2002 D Mint Mark Washington Quarter Dollar coin, a coin that has surprised collectors around the world because of its incredible value, rarity, and the story behind its creation. Believe it or not, one of these coins recently made headlines after being sold for a jaw-dropping $70,611 in the collector's market, making it one of the most valuable Washington quarters ever discovered. Before we get into why this coin is worth so much, let's first understand a little bit about the history of the Washington quarter itself. The Washington Quarter was first minted in 1932, designed to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The original design was created by sculptor John Flanagan, and it featured the left-facing bust of George Washington on the obverse side, with the word Liberty at the top, the motto "In God We Trust," and the date below his neck. On the reverse, the coin showed an elegant eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows and surrounded by olive branches, symbolizing both strength and peace. Initially, these quarters were struck in 90% silver and 10% copper from 1932 until 1964. However, after 1964, due to the rising cost of silver and increasing demand for circulating coins, the composition was changed to a copper-nickel-clad planchet starting in 1965. From that point forward, most quarters produced for circulation were made of a copper core with outer layers of nickel, giving them a silver-like appearance, but without actual silver content. The D Mint mark that you see on certain Washington quarters indicates that they were struck at the Denver Mint, located in Denver, Colorado. This mint mark can usually be found on the reverse side below the wreath for older issues, and on the obverse to the right of Washington's ponytail on later designs after 1968. The Denver Mint has been one of the primary producers of U.S. coinage since the early 1900s, and coins with a D Mint mark are always of special interest to collectors, especially when unique errors, die varieties, or low mintages occur. Now, the 1817-2002 D Mint Mark Washington Quarter is an interesting case. While the date 1817 might sound confusing since the Washington Quarter didn't exist until 1932, what makes this coin special is the combination of historic minting features, commemorative striking, and rare errors that connect it to both early and modern U.S. minting techniques. There are reports of special misstruck quarters that display strange date anomalies, transitional planchet errors, and double-die obverse that make them immensely valuable to collectors who specialize in error coins. The 2002 D Washington Quarter belongs to the famous 50-state quarters program, which began in 1999 and ended in 2008. This program was designed to honor each of the 50 states with a unique reverse design issued in the order that the states joined the Union. The year 2002 featured quarters representing states like Tennessee, Ohio, Louisiana, Indiana, and Mississippi. Each design tells a different story about American history and culture, from the musical heritage of Tennessee to the aviation legacy of Ohio and the state flower magnolia of Mississippi. The 2002 D Mint Mark quarters were widely circulated, but collectors quickly noticed that certain examples exhibited odd features, particularly on the edges and the date area. Some coins were struck with planchets meant for other denominations, resulting in off-metal errors. Others showed doubling on the date, lettering, or Washington's eye, making them double-die varieties. These types of coins are extremely rare, and when they appear in pristine mint condition, they can fetch prices well beyond what most people expect from a simple quarter. So how can a coin that most people would overlook as spare change end up being worth $70,611? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, condition, minting errors, and collector demand. Coins that are struck with mistakes or in limited quantities often become prized treasures for numismatists. For example, if a 2002 D Washington Quarter was accidentally struck on a 1817 silver planchet replica, or had its dies mismatched during production, it could create a one-of-a-kind collectible, Grading also plays a huge role in determining a coin's value. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC examine every detail of a coin under magnification, assessing its strike, surface quality, and overall preservation. A coin graded mint state 67 or higher is considered nearly flawless and can bring in thousands of dollars more than an average circulated coin. The record-breaking Washington quarter valued at $70,611 was reported to be in superb gem condition, displaying brilliant luster, sharp details, and a unique striking anomaly that set it apart from all others. Collectors also value coins that have historical significance. The Washington quarter is not only a piece of currency but a symbol of American heritage. The series has gone through several design transitions, from the original eagle reverse to the bicentennial design of 1976 featuring a colonial drummer, and later to the 50-state, U.S. territories, and America the Beautiful programs. Each of these stages reflects an era in U.S. history, and rare examples from specific years, like the 2002 D quarter, bridge the gap between modern and historical coinage. If you happen to find a 2002 D Washington quarter in your collection or spare change, the first thing you should do is inspect it carefully under good lighting or a magnifying glass. Look for any unusual features, doubled lettering, off-center strikes, missing mint marks, die cracks, or differences in edge texture. Some rare quarters even show partial cladding exposure on the edges, giving them a distinct copper streak that collectors love. Once you find something that looks unusual, consider having it authenticated by a reputable grading service. Many collectors have discovered valuable coins hidden in plain sight simply because they took the time to verify what they had. A coin that seems ordinary at first glance could be a transitional planchet error, or it might have been struck using mismatched dies from two different years. The current market for rare quarters is booming. With coin collecting becoming more popular through online auctions, social media, and numismatic expos, the demand for unique and high-grade examples continues to rise. In recent years, rare Washington quarters have fetched anywhere between a few thousand to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on their condition and variety. The $70,611 sale stands as proof that collectors are willing to pay top dollar for coins that tell a story and possess extraordinary qualities. Beyond monetary value, coins like the 2002 D Washington quarter remind us of the craftsmanship and history behind every piece of currency. Each coin has passed through countless hands, representing moments in time, commerce, and heritage. To think that a small metal disc could hold such incredible value and history is what makes numismatics truly special. So, if you have an old coin jar at home or inherited a collection from a family member, take a closer look. That old quarter sitting at the bottom might just be a rare and valuable treasure. Always handle coins by their edges to avoid fingerprints, store them in protective holders, and keep them in a dry, cool environment to maintain their condition. It's also important to remember that coin value fluctuates with the market. As gold, silver, and base metal prices change, so too does collector demand. Historical trends show that certain mint marks in specific years tend to perform better over time, especially those with limited mintages or rare varieties. The D mint mark coins, in particular, have a strong following because of their distinctive strike quality and rarity in certain issues. The Washington quarter dollar continues to be one of the most collected and studied coins in U.S. history. From the early silver quarters of the 1930s to the clad state quarters of the 2000s, each release carries a legacy of design, patriotism, and artistry. And with values like $70,611 being achieved, collectors are constantly on the lookout for the next big discovery. The 1966 no-mint mark Washington quarter dollar coin is one of the most fascinating and sought-after coins in American numismatic history. While millions of these coins were minted for everyday circulation, only a select few have characteristics that make them extremely valuable. Today, we'll explore the full story of the 1966 Washington quarter dollar, including its history, how it came to be, what makes it so special, and why collectors are willing to pay as much as $89,564 for one in pristine condition. So sit back, because this is going to be an exciting deep dive into one of the most iconic quarters in American coinage. Let's start with a little background. The Washington Quarter was first introduced in 1932, as part of the 200th anniversary celebration of George Washington's birth. It replaced the standing Liberty Quarter and featured a profile portrait of the first U.S. president, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. The coin quickly became one of the most recognizable pieces of U.S. currency, symbolizing not only America's founding but also the pride and strength of its people. Now, let's jump ahead to the 1960s, a decade of dramatic change in U.S. coin production. Prior to 1965, Washington quarters were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. However, due to a nationwide silver shortage and the rising cost of the metal, the U.S. Mint made a monumental decision. Starting in 1965, quarters would no longer be made from silver. Instead, they would be composed of a copper-nickel clad composition, a core of pure copper sandwiched between two layers of nickel. This change marked a major turning point in American coinage history. The 1966 Washington Quarter came out right in the middle of this transition. Because of that, this year's quarter is one of the most studied and collected among modern U.S. coins. In 1966, the U.S. Mint struck quarters without mint marks, meaning you won't find a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. Every 1966 quarter simply has no mint mark, even if it was made in Denver. This was done intentionally to discourage coin hoarding during the coinage shortage of the mid-1960s. People were saving silver coins, and the mint wanted to keep the newer clad coins circulating in the economy. The total mintage of the 1966 Washington Quarter was massive. Over 821 million pieces were struck. That means at first glance, most people think this coin isn't rare at all. But what truly makes certain 1966 quarters valuable are the rare minting errors, special conditions, and preservation quality. These factors can transform an ordinary pocket change coin into a piece worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. Let's talk about the design first. On the obverse side, we see the famous bust of George Washington facing left, with the word Liberty arching above his head and the national motto, "In God We Trust." To his left, the date, 1966, sits prominently at the bottom. On the reverse side, there's the majestic image of a bald eagle with its wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows, surrounded by olive branches. The inscriptions, United States of America, and E Pluribus Unum, are written above, while quarter dollar rests at the bottom. It's a design that's both patriotic and timeless, one that remained unchanged for over 65 years. Now, let's talk about the key factor that drives the coin's incredible value: the minting errors and condition. One of the most famous and valuable versions of the 1966 quarter is the double die obverse variety. In this error, the lettering, particularly "In God We Trust," or the date, 1966, appears doubled. This doubling is caused by a misalignment during the minting process when the die strikes the coin more than once in slightly different positions. Collectors go crazy for these double die coins, especially if the doubling is clear and dramatic. These can sell for thousands of dollars depending on their condition. Another rare and valuable variation is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin, known as a planchet, is not correctly aligned during the striking process, resulting in a coin with part of the design missing or off the edge. Off-center errors from 1966 that still show the full date can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. There are also transitional errors. Because 1965 was the first year of the clad composition, a few leftover silver planchets were mistakenly struck with 1965 and 1966 designs. A genuine 1966 quarter struck on a silver planchet would be incredibly rare, and if authenticated, it could sell for over $10,000 or even more in an auction. The best way to check for this is by weighing the coin. A regular 1966 clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams, while a 90% silver quarter weighs about 6.25 grams. That difference might sound small, but it's enough to make or break a collector's fortune. Now let's talk about condition, which is one of the most important aspects in coin collecting. Most 1966 quarters you find in circulation today are worn and scratched, showing their age after nearly 6 decades of use. However, a small number were preserved in exceptional condition, either by accident or by collectors who set them aside early on. Coins that are graded mint state, or MS, by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, can command extraordinary prices. The higher the grade, the sharper the details, the cleaner the surface, and the brighter the luster, and that means higher value. In particular, a 1966 quarter graded MS 68 or higher is almost impossible to find. Most coins fall in the MS 64 or MS 65 range. But one specimen graded MS 68 with full strike and perfect surfaces was sold for an astonishing $89,564 at auction. This record price stunned collectors and demonstrated how condition and rarity can transform an ordinary coin into a treasure worth tens of thousands of dollars. Another fascinating aspect of the 1966 Washington Quarter's history is the mint set issue. The U.S. Mint did not produce traditional proof coins in 1965, 1966, or 1967 due to coin shortages and changes in minting practices. Instead, they made what are called special mint sets, or SMS coins. These SMS coins have a higher quality finish than regular circulation coins but are not as mirror-like as proof coins. They have a satin-like texture with sharp details and strong luster. A 1966 SMS quarter in top condition can also fetch hundreds or thousands of dollars, especially if it shows cameo contrast, a frosted design against a smooth background. Those cameo SMS coins are particularly attractive to collectors. Let's also take a moment to talk about how to identify valuable 1966 quarters if you're searching through your pocket change or coin rolls. First, check the weight to rule out silver planchets. Next, examine the coin carefully under good lighting or a magnifying glass. Look for doubling on the letters or numbers, especially "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date, 1966. Also, pay attention to any striking errors such as missing details, off-center strikes, or clipped planchets. Any coin that looks unusual deserves a closer look. Another clue that your 1966 quarter might be special is its overall condition. A coin with full details in Washington's hair, a strong eagle with sharp feathers, and no scratches or wear could be worth far more than face value. Many collectors specialize in finding high-grade clad quarters because these coins are surprisingly difficult to locate in perfect condition. Now, you might wonder why someone would pay nearly $90,000 for a 1966 quarter when there are hundreds of millions out there. The answer lies in rarity, preservation, and demand. The U.S. coin market values perfection and history. A flawless, perfectly struck, well-preserved example from a year that marked a major transition in U.S. coinage has enormous historical and collector appeal. Add the fact that very few exist in that condition, and you have the perfect recipe for skyrocketing prices. Let's also discuss the broader market for Washington quarters. Since 1932, millions of collectors have pursued these coins because they represent an important part of American culture. The Washington Quarter series has gone through several design changes over the decades, from the original eagle reverse, to the bicentennial design in 1976, to the state quarters and America the Beautiful programs in the 2000s. But among all those designs, the 1966 quarter holds a unique place in history as one of the first modern clad coins. It's also worth noting that the coin market has seen significant appreciation in recent years.